Hi everybody, welcome to my channel, Numbers with Nora. This is actually going to be the third video on the Algebra 2 rational expression practice that I was doing in the last two videos. For this one, we're going to use each rational function and answer the following questions. This mostly is graphing, having to do with finding our asymptotes, horizontal asymptotes, vertical asymptotes, and our holes, and graphing them and setting and stating our domains. So for this one, I'm just going to focus on number 2. If you want to see number 1 and number 3, put something down in the comments and I can show you step by step how those are done. So let's get on with number 1 or 2. Okay, so for this one, the first thing you want to do is factor down as much as possible. For this one, x squared plus 8x minus 9, this is factorable. So what we're going to do, since my x squared coefficient is 1, I want to find two numbers that multiply together to get -9, but then at the same time add together to get 8. That's actually going to be 1 and 9, and my 9 is going to be positive. Again, if you are not strong with factoring, put in a comment below. I can send you some help with that or make another video just purely on factoring. So that's x plus 9 and x minus 1. Great. All right, so notice now that I can sit there and cancel out the x plus 9 and x plus 9. That's going to come up later when we deal with our holes, so that's important to know that to note down what you're canceling out. So then my new function that I'm going to graph is going to be f of x equals 1 over x minus 1. X minus 1. Cool. So now that we have the new our function that we're going to graph, let's go ahead and do A, B, and C. For A, they want us to first identify our vertical asymptotes. Okay, so to identify our vertical asymptotes, all we're going to do is set our domain right here from our new function equal to 0. All right, so that's going to be x minus 1 equal to 0, and I solve for x. And when I solve this for x, I'm just going to get x equals 1. So that's going to be our vertical asymptote, and we'll sit there and graph that on our graph when we have to graph it. Next, we have to sit there and find our horizontal asymptote. To find can I speak? To find our horizontal asymptote, there's like 3 rules for this one, right? So when we look at our horizontal asymptote, we're actually looking at our exponents of our main coefficients. Like for example, the exponent for my main coefficient on my numerator is 1. The exponent for my main coefficient right here is 2. Okay, so basically this is how it goes. We'll call our top exponent n, and then our bottom exponent m. Okay, this is for our leading exponent. All right, so if n, we're going to do if n is less than m. Okay, that means our horizontal asymptote is going to be y equals 0. If my n is equal to my m, that's kind of like what's happening in this situation right here. Number 1, my both of my highest exponents are equal. Okay, so that just means that how we would find our horizontal asymptote is we would just do our coefficients. We'll call our coefficients a and b. A over b. So that means it would be 3 over 1. Okay, and then if our n is more than our m, there's going to be no horizontal asymptote. Okay. All right, so we sit there and look at what condition sits there and meets ours. Since we're doing number 2, the condition that meets ours is our exponent on the top is lower than our exponent on the bottom. So that means we're going to have a horizontal asymptote of y equals 0. So that condition is going to be ours. All right. And then any holes in the gap. So when we're thinking about holes, remember how I said to pay attention for when we cross things out? So basically our holes are indicators of when we cross things out, okay? So notice we crossed out the x plus 9 and the x plus 9. So that means we're going to use that, what we crossed out, our x plus 9 instead of equal to 0. And then we solve for x. So that means our hole is going to be at x equals -9. Okay, so that's going to be our hole in our graph. All right, so we found everything they asked for us in A. Now let's do B. They want us to sketch the graph, clearly show all asymptotes and holes. I don't have like a nice little grid that we can use, so I'm just going to sit there and sketch it like this. All right. So first, let's go ahead and plot down our vertical asymptote. Vertical is up and down. We have our x equal to 1. So we'll say that this is 1 for right now, 1. And I'm just going to sit there and draw a dotted line to indicate my vertical asymptote. Okay. And remember, your asymptotes are just what your graph cannot touch. It gets really, really, really close to it, but it can't touch it. All right. And now let's do our horizontal asymptote, which is y equals 0. That's just going to lie on our y-axis or on our x-axis right here. That's where y is 0. Okay. That's our horizontal asymptote. That's y equals 0. All right. Now that we got our asymptotes drawn in, let's go ahead and figure out what this graph is going to look like. Now, if you don't know what the graph is going to look like, since I've graphed this so many times, I know it's going to be like a U going like the 2 U's going like that. But if you don't know what to do, you can always sit there and plot points and plug and chug, okay? And that's exactly what we're going to do. So I'm going to sit there and draw an X and a Y. All right. All right, so now I want to sit there and pick values that are to the, first we'll pick values to the right of my vertical asymptote. So why not pick 2? Okay. So that's saying that whenever I hit 2 on my x value, what is going to be my y value? And it's going to give me a point. Okay, so if I pick 2, I plug it in here. 1 over 2 minus 1 is just going to be 1 over 1, which is just 1. So that's a point. So 2, we'll say this is 1. Okay. And you can also pick another 0.3 and just sit there and see what you would get. But mostly it's usually going to look like this. It gets really, really close to your asymptote. Going to go through that point, and then it gets really, really close to your horizontal asymptote like that. Okay. So that's what that side's going to look like. And now let's sit there and see if it's going to be over here or over here for the left-hand side of my asymptote. So let's go ahead and pick, why not pick, because this is 1, we can't use 1. Why not pick 0? Okay. So when x is 0, we'll say this is 0. When x is 0, I plug it into my function that I found. So 1 over 0 minus 1, that's 1 over -1. 1 over -1 is just -1. Okay, so 0, -1, that's going to be a point. I guess I could just do it right there. And then I know I'm getting really close to these asymptotes, but then I'm going to go through there and I get really close to it again. Okay. And if you don't see that, then you can also plot more points if you want to really see what it looks like, okay? And so that is our graph of our sketch of our graph. Next is C, stating our domain. I'm just going to write my domain in interval notation. So domain, we're always looking at our x values. If I sit there and move from left to right, I see I hit an arrow. Oops. When I move from left to right, I see I hit an arrow. Whenever I hit an arrow from moving left to right, an arrow means infinity. You never include infinity, so we have negative infinity. And then I keep on moving left to right, 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 until I sit there and hit my asymptote, I cannot include that x value, okay? So then we're going to have to put 1 with the open parentheses, and then we'll put union because it keeps on going after that, and we'll put 1. And then I notice this keeps on going on into infinity, infinity, infinity. We hit an arrow. My x's go on to get bigger and bigger and bigger. So we just put regular infinity. And that's going to be my domain. Okay. So your domain is all real numbers except 1. Okay. All right. So that's all for number 2. Again, if you want to see 1 or 3, sit there and put it down in the comments. I'll hit you back up. If you have any questions on rational functions, also leave it in the comments, or any questions dealing with Algebra 2, be happy to ask. Also, if you have any other questions or would like further tutoring, please subscribe or leave a message in my comments. Thanks, guys.